Thank you so much for being with us here this afternoon. Well, it was a desperate night, wasn't it?
Absolutely, it was pretty grim results. Finishing behind the Green Party and UKIP as well as Labour and Tories is clearly not a good result for the Liberal Democrats.
Tell me a little of the grassroots traffic that you've been seeing.
Well, there's obviously a lot of discussion about what the party should do next. I think the two striking things are, one is there is almost nobody saying that coming out of coalition this far into the Parliament would be the right thing to do, and there is a general acceptance that being in coalition is the right thing. But the other is, I think, quite a lot of discomfort about the way being a pro-European party in the European election turned into sounding like we were the party of the status quo. So it was absolutely right to argue about the benefits of being in the European Union, but we ended up sounding like we just wanted everything to carry on as before, and that clearly isn't the mood of the public, and indeed isn't what the Liberal Democrats should believe in. We should be a radical reforming party.
I'll come back to that European question in a moment, but more pressingly, the leadership question. What are you getting the sense of from grassroots about how people right there in constituencies, door knocking, how do they feel about Nick Clegg and the strategy that he has mapped out that's taken us to this point?
Well, I think the key question is, would a different leader improve the party's prospects between now and the general election? And there are very few people saying that. There are slightly more than there were before, and some of them are long-standing party members and friends and colleagues whose views should be respected, but they're not large in number. And I think it's quite simply because any leader of the party in coalition for the next year will face all the same questions about why are you doing deals with the Tories, etc., that Nick has faced, and there's not some miracle cure that could be worked there.
Isn't John Pugh right, though, when he says if you cannot talk openly about the leadership at this point after these sets of results, then you never will? He's got a fair point. Why don't you just thrash it out?
Well, he has been talking openly about it in the media over the last couple of days, so in a sense that's exactly what has been happening. But as I said, what's very striking is there is really nobody saying that coming out of coalition is a sensible thing to do, and therefore whoever is leader of the party, those challenges are still going to be there, and it's not like changing some names will suddenly make everything wonderful overnight.
So you don't think there's criticism of the messenger as well as the message?
I mean, I think, for example, Nick's answer in the second debate, where he was asked how would he see the EU in 5 years' time, and his answer was essentially pretty much the same as it was before. That was a mistake. The party should have been pushing much more about how we want to change and improve the European Union. The European Union is great for British jobs, it's great for the British environment, it's great for keeping down the cost of living in the UK, but we should be talking about how we want to improve it and change it, not simply the status quo.
That is interesting that you map all of that out, and in a sense that's what the Liberal Democrats did throughout this campaign, and yet that was overwhelmingly rejected by the British public.
Well, I think the party did actually fail to do that. I think far too often we sounded like we were the party that we want to be in the European Union and just leave it like that, as if we're the party of the status quo. And clearly the mood amongst the wider public is if the public wants change, and actually different parties that can tap into that in different ways have been very successful in these elections and other recent elections, and the mistake for the party was to lose our radical reforming heritage.
He's tried just about everything in terms of tactics to try to differentiate some sort of ground he can make progress and traction with the opinion polls, and nothing seems to have worked. In your view, what should he do in these coming 12 months if he remains as leader?
I think the crucial thing is to make it sound like we are not the party of the establishment, that being in coalition is great in terms of achieving very many Liberal Democrat policies, but the party's reason for being is not to be part of the establishment, it's to change the establishment.